Change of scenery, guys. Wow, it's a little echoey in here. Also, I'm pretty sure my neighbors upstairs are moving out. And I have Lola snoring in her burrito next to me. Also, you need to see this. You need to see this. Can we just appreciate how adorable this is? Yeah, that's my bean in her bean burrito. And yes, my dog has her own side of the bed. Hi, everybody. My name is Emmy Klein. I am an artist here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And if you have been watching my videos, you know I have been attempting to do the Pantone Postcard painting challenge before I leave for my residency in France. Now, I have altered this original challenge as created by Big Blue Tang because I am extremely busy and there's no way I could possibly paint every single day. My goal is to have 5 painted in a week, and so far I've been doing pretty well. Also, for those of you who have been watching the videos or have been kind of paying attention to the timeline, the first week I nailed it, second week I skipped entirely, and then the third week I nailed it again. If you're wondering how I posted a video and then immediately posted another video and somehow had 3 weeks in there, I recorded my first week and then I struggled the second week to edit said video. So that first video didn't actually go out until after that second week had failed. So the third week being the last week that I just did, that one I actually did post that on time. So this is why I'm doing this. I have to get familiar with the editing process again. It's something that I've fallen out of habit with, so this is my practice. So for those of you wondering, as of today being Sunday, there are this many days before I leave for my residency in France. And for those of you who are counting, 23 weeks and 1 day. If I have 23 weeks, that means I could, if I still stick with my 5 every week, I have 115 cards that I could do. I've already knocked out 10. So that means I have an extra month. 4 weeks, essentially. I have an extra 4 weeks in case I do what I did last time and fail miserably. So I'm on point. I'm on track. For those of you who are wondering about the math, I don't know what's happening here. Boop, 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 boop. Anywho, I'm gonna go jump to painting, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Alright, so right after I recorded that, I figured why not, let's get a jump on the week, and so I grabbed my cards, rolled the die, and I landed on one, which is landscape. And I am so excited that I got landscape because I pulled this rust color that immediately made me think of the Grand Canyon, kind of Arizona, Utah area. So I wanted to do some of those stacked rocks in a desert scene. So I started off with a pencil sketch just to kind of place everything, and then mostly erased out those lines just so they wouldn't be very prominent. Then I grabbed a couple of colors, just wanted to really start with the sky. So Prussian blue to cobalt to aqua blue, just for a nice gradation of the night sky. And then right at the horizon line, it looked like, you know, there's some pinks and yellows, and it got much lighter. So also kind of that haze around the moon also had those colors too. So I thought those were really nice. Oh, and that was me covering up the majority of the bottom and then flicking on some stars. And here I am going in with my handy dandy toothpick, which I am definitely becoming obsessed with. It is such a great tool just to kind of carve back in. And here I slowed it down a little bit so you could really see all of the shapes that I could kind of refine back with that toothpick. But here is where I started doing the actual landscape portion of it. So with the desert scene and the rocks and everything, I wanted to go much, much warmer, which is a great juxtaposition of that sky. So burnt umber, burnt sienna, and that permanent orange. So I started off with my shadows of the burnt umber and then went in with the much lighter shades just for kind of those highlights as well, because honestly, I was trying to keep the majority of the midtones of the landscape the original card color. So I had to get kind of some transitions of the lightest lights leading down into that, and then also the darkest darks leading up to it. So I kind of had a lot of fun playing around with that. Oh, and here's where I actually grabbed some deep green just to kind of add in a little bit of foliage, because even though it was the desert scene, there was actually foliage. But at that point, I also realized that I definitely needed to darken my shadows. So that opera red with that Prussian blue, that gave me a really lovely purple that darkened everything and, pushed my values really well. But then I also realized I needed to lighten up my lightest values. So you'll see me actually go in with a couple of lighter tones here and just brighten those up, just make it pop and really get a good variety of values. So card number 1, done. And just like that, it was Friday. Yeah, I had a week, not gonna lie. But I had to get it done, so grabbed the die, rolled a 4. Which, as you guys know, I'm very excited about. Love painting food. And then I actually pulled this really fun kind of a peachy pink color named Blossom. So after thinking about it, I decided I was going to paint a kiwi slice. And I really wanted to, make sure that everything was kind of placed correctly again. So pencil sketch and a couple of colors. And of course, as soon as I started mixing my colors, I realized I need a little bit of white just to kind of, bring that yellow and green down to the perfect kind of kiwi color. So that was my mid-tone. Then I added a couple highlights. Then I added a couple shadows. Then I kept kind of working back and forth like that in the center, just until it started looking normal, like a kiwi. But then, the bottom was a really funky, that's baby poop brown, not gonna lie. Didn't realize it until I was watching it back here, but that's kiwi color right there, isn't it? So went back to the top portion because I knew that wasn't quite done. I definitely needed to kind of bring those greens down into the bottom of the kiwi and then, darken kind of a ring around the edge. But I knew for the seeds I needed something much, much darker, which is why I brought in that burnt umber and a really tiny brush just to kind of dot those in. And I even made a couple of seeds look like they were kind of hidden underneath with a mix of like green, so it was like a darker green. And then added in a couple highlights. And then at this point, I realized I needed some kind of a background, so I added in a little bit of that, permanent orange for the base. And then also realized that the shadows needed to be a little bit darker because the darkest dark being those seeds made it look a little funky. But overall, I was pretty happy with how this turned out, and I definitely want to go eat some more kiwi. And since I was running out of time, I knew I had to do a 2-for-1 on Friday. So I rolled the die again and got a 3, which is animal. And then pulled this funky yellow out of the book. And I honestly had no idea what I was going to do. So after looking at a couple of photos, I figured it out and went in with a pretty limited palette here. So white, aqua blue, ultramarine blue, and a jet black. Then, as I noted there, you can see at the very, very end for the eyeshadows, I actually pulled in a little bit of burnt sienna from the kiwi it was still wet on my palette, but I decided to paint a fat cat. He was so funny looking and just kind of like, just the only sound that I could imagine that would come out of him was just like, huh. He just looked confused and possibly hungry. I don't know. But placed everything with the highlights and then went in with a mid-tone and then went in with a little bit of shadows and kind of wanted to, define where everything was with his face and his chunk. He had a lot of rolls, not gonna lie. But ultimately, I kept it kind of a very gray-blue kind of a color palette. Didn't really vary from there. That's why I liked having the ultramarine and the aqua blue just to kind of lighten it up. But that jet black was really just to kind of desaturate it and make it more of the gray tone. And then, if I needed to lighten it, that white was great. But then I went in with the pure jet black to kind of define just his eyes, the nostrils, and maybe a little bit around his mouth, just for a little bit of pop of kind of contrast. But then I actually went in with the pure white just to give him a little bit of highlights. Gotta have that little highlight on his eyes that I pop in there. And then I actually used the white and my ultra thin brush to kind of flick in some whiskers, and I actually ended up going around his head a little bit for a little bit of like, wild hair here and there, just to kind of make him look a little extra floofy. But overall, this guy was super fun to paint, and I hope you enjoyed it. And then it was Saturday, so I knew I had to finish up today just to make sure I got the weekend. Rolled the die, got a 2, which is portrait, and pulled this candy pink color out. Now, as soon as I saw it, was like, is that the same color that I was just working on with the kiwi? And of course, had to compare it. Also, not gonna lie, every portrait, I think every portrait that I've done so far is on pink. Odd coincidence. But anyway, I started off with the burnt umber and violet mixture to kind of place my shadows. I did not go in with a pencil sketch on this one, but I landed on the drawing pretty well for this one. Sometimes it's hit or miss, but the combination of those two colors when I watered it down gave me a good kind of shadow tone as well. But I knew as soon as I started doing his beard, I needed a little bit more of an orangey tinge. So that's why that burnt sienna came in. And then the permanent lemon and Jaune Brilliant were my highlights, as well as in his hair, kind of pulling it, consistently around the face. But then I went in with those same colors and started placing in the shadows across his face. He had really weird lighting. But I did realize I needed to darken my darkest values, which is where that Prussian blue kind of came in. And actually, when I was laying that down over the initial layer, it almost went pure black, which was great. And then it was also really great for the kind of reflective tones across the side of his face. And this is where I actually did the thing that I tell everybody not to do, and I used all of the pure white in all of the highlights across his face, which, not gonna lie, I actually ended up hating. So eventually you'll see me, yep, there it is. I scrape it all back out and then place very few highlights just to kind of work back into that. So this portrait is done. And last but not least, I had to roll the die one more time and landed on 4, which you guys know is food. So I was very excited again about this and pulled this fun faded denim color out. I also don't know why there's a smudge on the letters there, but oh well. After looking at a couple photos, I landed on what I wanted to eat for breakfast the next day, which was a really fun little egg on toast with avocado. So lots of colors here. I actually laid them all out before I actually, I went in with game plan. I kind of knew the colors that I needed before I actually started painting, unlike the portrait. But good combination of the Prussian blue with the burnt umber and a little bit of white were the kind of darker tones on the egg whites. And then I went in with the lighter values of that kind of mixture. And then the egg yolk was a combination of the permanent orange, permanent yellow. I think I also added in a little bit of yellow ochre and then white to kind of lighten up those areas for the highlights. But my favorite area is the guacamole kind of avocado smashed into the toast. It kind of just looks like boogers at first. I swear I save it. Don't worry. But I did go in on the edges of the egg with a little bit of the burnt sienna as well, just to kind of make it look like it had that kind of crispy edge going to it. But here's where I take that Prussian blue and a combination of the burnt umber and make my shadows to where I think this really pulls it together. And the original photo did have a lot of seasonings on top, and I was going to initially put that in, but I don't think it needs it. I think this turned out really great, and what a great way to end the week with, breakfast foods. So that was the week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And I will catch you guys next time.